Now we're going to question 13. Let's start with the prompt. Which quotation effectively illustrates the claim? And let's start reading. This is a 1919 poem. It highlights an ambivalence toward poetry as the speaker acknowledges its merits while also expressing a sense of displeasure. So the speaker says that poetry has merits, so something good about poetry, and also there's a sense of displeasure about poetry, and that's ambivalence. Ambivalence is if you could go either way on something. Well, do I like baseball better or football? Someone may say, I'm ambivalent. I can kind of enjoy either one the same. And by the way, if you need help with vocab, you can go to gratefultestprep.com/practice and click on the vocab tab and try some of our vocab tools that are on there. So, where are we seeing that ambivalence? Looking at answer choice A. Nor is it valid to discriminate against business documents and school books. All of these are important. Nothing to do with poetry, so we're definitely not seeing the ambivalence towards poetry. B. One must make a distinction. However, when dragged into prominence by half poets, the result is not poetry. Here, we may say the problem is there's not a problem with poetry. There's not an ambivalence, seeing the good and the bad about poetry. It's more about people who claim to be poets but are not, the half poets, maybe people who are bad poets. So I guess what we don't like about B is that it's taking issue not with poetry, but with poets, with half poets. C, when poems become so derivative as to become unintelligible, the same may be said for all of us, that we do not admire what we cannot understand. Same thing here. Here, we're kind of hearing that there are some people that don't do it well. They write their poems so bad that they're unintelligible. In other words, unintelligible means you can't understand it. So some people are such bad poets that their poems can't be understood. Therefore, we're not able to admire them. And the problem there is not necessarily with poetry. It's with people who are not doing what poetry should do, which I guess in this case would be to be understandable. And then looking at D, reading poetry with a perfect contempt for it. Right there, we're seeing that you have to have a contempt for poetry. Contempt is kind of like a hatred. So if you have a perfect contempt for poetry, you can say that there is a place for genuine poetry. So as long as you maintain a little bit of hatred toward poetry, then you can also appreciate that genuine poetry is kind of being said to be really good, just the way it's being said. So D has that ambivalence. You have to have some hatred and you have to appreciate genuine poetry. So that's our answer here.